Boston College only lands one transfer portal player on Tuesday, but it's an offensive lineman, and that offensive line is getting one step closer to being good.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Network, covering Boston College for over a decade. If you're looking for Boston College news, analysis, and details on your Eagles, you are in the right place. Locked On Boston College is a free daily Boston College podcast available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. On today's show, we are going to be jam-packed talking more portal talk. What should BC looking for in their second quarterback to go with Mason McKenzie, We'll look at two new crystal balls in what should be a very, very busy Wednesday. I'll explain what that looks like. And we have a new commitment. So we're going to get into all of that on today's show. Today's episode is brought to you by Reggie. If you've been thinking about taking the next step, now's the time. Head to Reggie.com/LockedOnCollege to get 15% off your order for a limited time. Reggie, ready, feel present, feel confident, feel ready. All right. Quieter day today for BC. And I sense the unease with some of you out there because there's still 20 plus spots that BC is going to have to fill. We found out on Tuesday that Ishmael Samore, posted for my VIPs on Eagle Insider, had entered the portal. That's another spot. We learned yesterday Ryan McKow, he entered the portal. That's another spot. They're going to be busy. They have 8 commitments right now. They need about 30 plus. So it's going to be crazy. On Tuesday, they landed 1. So not the biggest haul, especially after yesterday when they had 5, but a solid recruit. This a solid transfer, and this is Kristian Phillips, originally from Conaire, Georgia, who went to Michigan State, played as a starter for parts of last year, played other parts, and then got hurt. He had a very good Pro Football Focus grade in terms of his pass blocking grade. His run grade isn't bad, but it's pretty comparable to Eric's Doherty, I think, in terms of that. Eric's played a little bit more than he did, but he still has played quite a bit. And I think he ended up just during the portal because he missed some time. Another guy came in and probably ended up taking his spot. This is a former 3-star who had an offer from one other P5 school, which is escaping me right now, but a Big Ten player. So this is your second offensive lineman in the class. You need 5, probably, maybe 6. And this is number 2. You added Mr. October himself, Reggie Jackson, yesterday, a tackle from Jacksonville State. You added Kristian Phillips. What I like about both of these guys is they both have played. You're not throwing a offensive lineman out there and saying, hopefully this guy is going to really develop. Kristian Phillips has played quite a bit of snaps. Reggie Jackson played almost 850 snaps last year. So I look at that, and I'm getting news on my phone right now. Hold on. What is this? Someone just tagged me on something from 247. Well, I'll keep talking about this. I'm not going to get distracted. It's probably something transfer related. But what you have now is 2 offensive linemen to go with what you have as your core. Your core is it's about Shaker Rising. I don't care about that. What your core is, you have Michael Krauts as your center. You have 2 guards that probably play at least one of them next year. Robert Smith, I would think, plays next year. He's played quite a bit, and I think he looked pretty good when we saw him. He was only a freshman last year. I think he's a guy that you're going to want to see play out there. And then you have Judah Pruitt, who also played a little bit, but I just get the sense with him he's ready to probably take that step. Like, he's the guy that you're waiting to jump and do that. The tackle position, you have Reggie Jackson and Pape Sai. We saw Sai a little bit last year. I would have assumed McKow was going to be there, but who knows what conversations were had, because obviously when Jackson committed, McKow was out like 2 hours later. So that was very quick, and I think you still need at least one more tackle. Pape Sai, I'm excited to see him develop. He was a high 3-star when he committed to BC out of the NFL Academy in London, but you still don't know exactly what he can and can't do in live game situations because he really hasn't played a ton yet. So you got all those guys. You probably want at least one more tackle. And then you're going to want some depth pieces because you did lose a lot of depth to go on your offensive. Like you lost Jaden LaFontaine, who was depth. You lost Jack Funk. You lost Ryan McCow. Like these guys aren't players that you were expecting to start, but you need to fill in the depth. Like you have a bunch of freshmen coming in, but as we saw last year, when injuries happen, who steps in next? You have a guy like Amir Johnson. You haven't seen him play, but he's there. Then there's not a lot there. You got to be able to bring in some guys. So I think that is what we're going to see next. We're going to probably see one more tackle and then some depth guys because you got to rebuild it. You got to get guys in there that can play. And so that'll be the next piece there. This is one of my favorite gets for BC. I would say Kristian Phillips is got a nice solid base right now. So it's not like you're bringing in a guy that's a developmental guy, but has a good ceiling to him. So it's like you're starting at a better level than, maybe someone like Ela Boykin, who looked pretty good at the end of last year. He started I think his base was really low because he was coming from D2, D3 or whatever that was. But he got higher. At least with Phillips, he's starting at a Big Ten level, right? He played in a Big Ten school, played, against tougher opponents. You know what he can do. The big concern with him, though, and I think everyone's going to bring this up, is injuries. He's been hurt a couple times. He's got to stay healthy. We saw this with Jude Bowery. Jude Bowery got the stuffing knocked out of him for 2 straight years. Logan Taylor also got beaten up pretty badly too. You need him to stay healthy. So hopefully Kristian, this was a flash in the pan kind of thing where he got hurt once or a couple times. He's going to be able to get to work with the training staff here and get himself in that shape that he needs to be in to prevent these injuries. I honestly don't know what his injury was. I looked it up. I couldn't find it. But it was enough. I believe he didn't play after like week 6 last year. So that was a big loss. But I read some Michigan State people, talking about him. They liked him. He just got hurt and that was it. So this will, and you have Pat Fitzgerald also taking over there. So a new regime. I think he actually committed to the world of college football, folks, right? I think he committed to Mel Tucker, who was like 2 years ago. So this is it in terms of that. Now, if you guys were wondering, sometimes I like to give you some heads up on where some our old friends are going. Doherty got picked up this morning by Louisville. So luckily, BC doesn't have to play Louisville this year, so you don't get to see Doherty. We get to see Dylan Logan, though, because he's Rutgers. So that's the newest on the offensive line. I don't have new names that they could be going after. I get the sense with this is the type of position they're going to try to keep under wraps because tackles are expensive. You don't need a bidding war when you're BC. So they're going to be guys that you're not hearing about. So I think that's the latest there. Now, in a moment, we have so many spots, but there's 2 crystal balls in for BC to land 2 other Big Ten players. I'll tell you who they are and what they could be bringing to BC in just a moment. The college football playoff is here, and FanDuel is giving all customers even more ways to get in on the action every single game of the playoffs. Because right now, every college football playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost waiting for them in the app. Here's what I love about it. You get to use the profit boost on bets you already feel good about. I love this. When I go in, I make myself a parlay, and then I use that profit boost. It makes my eyes light up. You're the favorite when your team is controlling the matchup. You take a shot on the underdog. You can do a whole bunch of different things. And then you apply the profit boost and go for an even bigger winning. And when you win, FanDuel pays out instantly, which is perfect for playoff football. FanDuel is the best place to get in on the action all playoff long. So visit FanDuel.com to get your college football profit boosts every single day. Locked On Boston College, and thank you for making Locked On Boston College your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast. If you haven't already, go check out the new Everydayer Club. You get access to ad-free audio feeds for your Locked On Boston College, compatible with Apple's Podcast, Spotify, and other major podcast apps. I love it. If you get access to our Discord, but you know what I really, really love, and it's a lot of fun, and some of you folks out there might have already taken advantage of it, is our All Access. Our All Access here is like for all of you diehards out there that just love talking BC sports. You get access to a text app where you can text directly to me and get text from me. I'm giving you breaking news, my thoughts when breaking news happen. You can ask me questions anytime you want. I'm always on the app. I try to respond as much as I can, but you also get bonus content. I just dropped an episode this morning. If you're on your podcast feed, you'll see it. I talked about the running back position, what I thought would happen and what I would have liked to see BC do, and who were the options BC were looking at. I dove in deep on these guys for about 10 minutes of just running back talk. So if you haven't signed up already, get yourself involved. It's a great way to get more out of our podcast. That you also get 15% off merch, so you can get good Locked On swag like mine. I don't think you get the Locked On BC ones, but you can get Locked On stuff like this. Get in there, sign up today. It's lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer. Find the Boston College feed, and boom, you're in. All right. Now, let's get into the newest piece of our day. Crystal balls. These are the people we have not heard if they've committed yet. And I'm being frankly honest with you. I have not heard from my 247 folks if these two have committed. But Jeff Ehrman of 247's Maryland Terrapin site put in crystal balls for 2 Maryland players to commit to BC. If you were part of my Everydayers Club, you knew who these two were already. This is Nolan Ray, running back from Maryland, and Kevin Hume, a cornerback who played slot corner. So let's get into who these players are and why I think they'd be good fits. Nolan Ray gets me excited. This is a kid from Michigan. Bloomfield, Michigan, I believe he went to high school. 6'1", 215 pounds. This, to a T, fits a need Boston College has. You need running backs because you lost Turbo Richard, Josh Jordan McDonald, but you need physical running backs. You have Bo McCormick, you have Cedric Addison, and Mekhi Dodd. All three of them are underclassmen. Bo McCormick is not a physical. I mean, he's a physical running back, but he's not like a bruising back. He's not that kind of back. I don't know what Mekhi Dodd or Cedric Addison are going to be able to do. They could. Who knows? But my guess is you want to get an established guy in here. Nolan Ray ran for almost 300 yards and 2 touchdowns this past season. He ran for almost 400 the year before, so he's established. This, to me, strikes me just like that kind of Kai Robichaux type of running back that you bring in that's not anything super top notch. This is not like a Turbo Richard type of player, but just a solid running back and a physical running back. That's so important in these BC offenses that once you get later in games, you want to wear down those defenses. You want to be able to battle out and wear them down and get those big plays. And there is, if you watch Nolan Ray's tape, a little bit more explosiveness, I think, than Jordan McDonald had. So he's a solid. I would love to see him come here. I think this would be a really good get. He was on a visit to BC earlier this last weekend. He was part of that big group that was there. He was with his teammate. So BC has to get at least 2 running backs, possibly 3. Because remember, they lost Turbo, they lost Jordan McDonald, and Alex Burham. You might need to get 3 here. So this is the first one if he commits. And so we have a crystal ball in for him. I talked to Jeff. He thinks that BC's in really good shape for him. That's a good positive sign right there. The second name is Kevin Humes. Now, Kevin Humes, it goes to a favorite high school here at Locked On Boston College, which is St. Francis Academy. St. Francis Academy was a favorite hotbed of recruiting for, what was his name? Azar Abdul-Rahim, who was the defensive coordinator under Jeff Hafley and cornerbacks coach at one point. He brought in guys like Jude Bowery, KP Price, and then a whole bunch of guys that committed to BC and then switched or transferred out. Guys like CJ Burton, Darrell Robinson, like you name it. I think there was like 5 or 6 that either decommitted or transferred out pretty quick. So St. Francis Academy is a powerhouse high school in Baltimore, Maryland that produce a ton of talent. I think they had a really good player at Auburn last year, along with Darrell Robinson, who could come back here. He's in the portal too. But Kevin Humes was a slot corner. Now, slot corner, we have one right now with TJ Green. Humes is, I think, sorry, I should also say both of these guys are at least in their 3rd or 4th year. So they're veterans. These are not young guys. These are guys that have played a bit. And Humes played almost 400 snaps or 350 snaps this past year. Had 20-something tackles, and he was a pretty solid corner, and had, his grade was like a 64, 65. Good size, good hitter. This is interesting because, as I just said, you have TJ Green, who was starting to develop. You're losing I believe Cameron Martinez is not coming back. We haven't heard anything about him, assuming he's in the or he's graduating. I'm not sure what's going on there. But you have a guy like Kevin Humes who just go ahead and look at his high school recruiting. He had some big schools looking at him. Notre Dame, I believe Alabama was looking at him. Like, there was a bunch of big programs that really wanted him. So he's playing. He just entered the portal. Again, you don't need a ton of cornerbacks because you have Sayer Torrance coming back. You have Max Tucker, Isaiah Cunningham, Ashton Cunningham. But you still want to add some depth. You lost Amari Jackson. You lost Ashton McShane. So this is good. And you need to bring in some depth at the nickel because either he could beat out TJ Green, or if something were to happen to Green, and we've seen injuries happening everywhere at BC, hello last year, this is the perfect type of guy that could fill in and do that. Or you could move him around. So I love this. I love just where things are at with the names that are popping up. You have to be happy. Big Ten transfers. All 3 of them have played. This is what you need. You're building up depth with guys that have played. Okay? That's big. Like, if you go and look at the guys BC are losing, the players that are transferring out, I keep saying this. You have a handful, a small handful, that I think are going to be really hard to replace. Your Reed Harris's, Omar Thornton will probably be tough. I'm going to say it again, and some of you guys might want to kill me for it. I think Turbo can be replaced. I don't think that's that hard. Eric Doherty might be a little harder, but I think you got somebody that can do that. And then all your depth guys, you're already improving on a lot of them because many of these guys never played, or if they played, they struggled a lot. Well, you're looking and you're seeing some players, guys like Samaj Fleming, he dropped down a level. Jack Funk dropped down quite a few levels. He's at Bryant next year. Samaj Fleming ended up at App State, by the way. You have Stevie Amar. He may go Big Ten, but I think the guys that you're bringing in, all of them have contributed to some degree. And then you have a few that are upside, right? Javarius Green. I'm very excited to see what they can do with him. He only was a freshman last year. These guys have started to produce. So this crystal ball, I think, was an exciting one. Even if you don't know if they commit, and maybe they don't. This is important to say too. I did not put the crystal ball in. I don't know anything about what's going on with these guys other than they came and visit. He knows, Jeff knows them better, so he put it in. I keep saying this over and over again. The transfer portal, everything is super fluid. Everything changes. Everything adapts. So I got told yesterday that the rest of this week is going to be crazy. What happens today? We get one commitment. Now, I'm hearing other things, and I'll talk about this in the last segment, that the rest of the week, actually, I'll tell you now. Why am I waiting till the last segment? That I'm told tomorrow to be very, very busy. So make sure that you're right now. A bunch of you guys are online. Smash that subscribe button before you go. And don't go because we have one more segment to go. But I love you guys so much because I continue making this joke. I want to get higher than BC's actual athletics page. It would be like the feather of the cap for me. And the amount of you who have subscribed has been crazy. So if you have not already, hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Let's do this. Let's do it, right? So help me out. Hit subscribe. And on our final segment on today's show, BC is, from what I've heard, and it makes sense, they're looking for another quarterback. Who are they looking at for and why? And why Mason McKenzie made a comment that I loved. I'll explain what he said in just a moment. About something men don't bring up, but I absolutely should. Stress from work, money, life. It just doesn't switch off at night. And when it shows up at the worst possible time, Reggie at Ready is designed to help you take control. Reggie at Ready is a next generation prescription treatment designed to support both the brain and the body so you can feel present, confident, and ready when the moment matters. Reggie at Ready combines 3 clinical proven ingredients, 1 mint that dissolves under your tongue so it absorbs fast. You connect with a board certified doctor online and everything ships discreetly to your door. It's easy to understand why 150,000 men have already made the switch. So if you've been thinking about taking the next step, now's the time. Head to rugiet.com/lockedoncollege. That's RUGIET.com/lockedoncollege to get 15% off your order for a limited time. Rugiet Ready. Feel present, feel confident, feel ready. Locked on Boston College, AJ Black here, and I'm pulling up the quote that I want to talk about in just a moment. I lost it. There we go. Anyways, we're talking about the transfer portal class, and I want to talk about Mason McKenzie before we get into my last segment. Mason McKenzie has been kind of a divisive quarterback for many of the fan base because he played D2. You don't know much about him. His stats don't really pop for you. But there was something that happened this week that did pop for me. And I want to shout out Brett and Mac over at Eagles Daily because they got a great quote. One of the things about Dylan Larnigan that never really impressed me all that much was how quiet he was. First of all, I thought the staff really kind of guarded him quite a bit. We talked to him very rarely this year. I think 3 or 4 times, it seems like. And only once during camp. Otherwise, he seemed very quiet, kind of almost, he seemed aloof to me. He wasn't like the raw leader. Castellanos was everywhere. Like, he was crazy. Even Grayson James, to his credit, was more of a vocal leader. I dig vocal leaders as long as they're backing it. It's something that you can, it resonates with the team. It can bring a team together, in my opinion. And something Mason McKenzie said today really caught my attention. And this is the quote from Eagles Daily. I chose BC because of the people in the building and the opportunity to bring back a historically rich program, as well as the opportunity to play for some of the best coaches in the nation. I know not a lot of fans' first choice, but what I will say is what I will bring a high level of competitiveness and leadership to the field, locker room, and weight room. I can't wait to get started and show everyone what I can do on the field. Competitiveness, that drive, I love that. I love the drive and the competitiveness. So, hey, that piece gives me a good feeling. Now he's got to back it with the physicality and doing it on the field. But that little piece, I was like, okay, you got me there, Mason. That sounds great. Now, Mason will not be the only quarterback BC's bringing in. We know that they're going to bring somebody else in, and I know everybody wants to know about Deuce Knight. And I talked about him last night. I have no updates on Deuce Knight. There's no really new tea leaves going on outside, so I have nothing on him. But what should BC be looking for? Because I see a lot of quarterbacks that have been linked to BC or names thrown around. They need somebody that can play immediately. Someone that is ready to go. Last year, you had Grayson James and Dylan Larnigan. Grayson James was the guy that was ready, and you knew Larnigan was ready to go. So that could be the kind of the case this year because I would think that either there's 2 things that Brian is going to want to do. He's either going to want to have a very clear number one. So if, for instance, if like Deuce Nice does come here, well, he would be the clear number one. You would Deuce Knight's not going to come here for he'll be told he has to quarterback battle, but the assumption, feel like that would be the assumption, right? Otherwise, there's other quarterbacks out there. You just need to make sure that this guy is ready to go. There's so many names out there that of quarterbacks that have played who can do this kind of stuff. And you just have to find the right fit, right? You need someone that can do Bill O'Brien's offense. You don't need someone whose like specialty is the spread, because you don't do the spread at Boston College. You don't need someone who does the read option. They're just a dual quarterback that just runs a lot, because that's not going to work here. You need someone who can throw, who can make quick decisions, who can read defenses and do it just you don't need it to be at a high level, but just adequately, right? And there's a ton of names out there that you've seen linked, right? I'm not sure if we saw Devin Brown linked to him, and the kid from Mercer, Brandon Atkinson. These are all names that national folks have thrown out. We don't know. So I'm curious. I'm curious how BC addresses this. Who do they go for? Who fits that spot? Because you're going to want Mason McKenzie makes a great comment here. And I know a lot of folks are also worried with that quote that was edited out that basically said, it's my job to lose. You need to come here and battle him. And I don't think Femi Babalola, who basically split time in high school, and Anthony Colner are going to be those guys this year. They could be, but I don't think that is how you should view it going into spring camp. It could be a happy little surprise, but you don't want it to be the only option that you have. So I think that's the case. Now, the other piece is, could BC go for two quarterbacks? You lost two of them in the portal. Do you go, you're actually three total because you lost Grayson James. Do you add a third? Do you go for a more established guy and maybe a name that, is going to fill the Shaker Rising role, because you want to try to rebuild your depth with guys at certain levels. So there's other guys out there that are at the same year that you had with Shaker Rising. There's other, I don't want to get into names, but there's guys out there that could do that. Maybe you go for two. Who knows? But I do think the big need that you need at quarterback is you got to get somebody to battle Mason McKenzie, whether it's a high-level guy that can come in and do it, or someone who's just on that tier that can just come in and do it anyways. So that's the big thing. Now, I said it earlier, a little nugget for you, and this is what my all-access people get more of. I've been told tomorrow's going to be a huge, a large wave of signings coming in. So be prepared. I will go live again tomorrow night. I can't go live earlier than tomorrow night. I can do I'll have little clips of what I think, minute little clips in the afternoon. And I'll have all sorts of good news. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button on YouTube, because I don't put the little clips up to the Apple Podcasts and stuff like that. It's only on video. So either you're on YouTube or you're on TikTok. You got to get it one place. Get it on social media. Hit that subscribe button before you head out. Follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247. Check me out on Instagram, on TikTok. As I said, find Locked On BC on TikTok, on Facebook. Get involved. We're getting into this. This is such a crazy month. We've had so much engagement from all of you, and I appreciate each and every one of you, whether you agree with me or disagree with me. I don't care, as long as you're here. And I'll see you all again tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.